The silk of Lorraine's borrowed nightgown whispered against my skin as I shifted on the leather sofa, trying to find a position that didn't make my bruised ribs scream in protest. The apartment smelled expensive. Aged leather, sandalwood, and something darker I couldn't quite identify. Power, maybe. Or danger. My fingertips traced the edge of a throw pillow that probably cost more than my monthly salary at the gallery where I used to work, back when my life made sense. Just one night, Lorraine had promised 3 hours ago, her manicured hands gripping my shoulders with surprising strength. Lucas is in New York. He won't be back until tomorrow afternoon. You'll be gone before he even knows you were here. I'd wanted to argue, to insist I could handle this myself, that I didn't need to hide in some stranger's penthouse like a frightened animal. But the memory of Derek's fist connecting with my jaw, the sound of his wedding ring splitting my lip, had stolen whatever fight I had left. So I'd nodded, let Lorraine bundle me into her Mercedes, and tried not to think about what would happen when Derek realized I wasn't coming back this time. The penthouse was darker now, the Chicago skyline glittering through floor-to-ceiling windows that made me feel exposed, despite being 60 stories above the street. I should have been sleeping. God knows I needed it. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's face twisted with rage, heard his voice promising terrible things if I ever tried to leave him. So instead, I lay there in the darkness, cataloging details of this stranger's home. The art on the walls looked original, not prints, but actual paintings with visible brushstrokes and signatures I didn't recognize. The furniture was modern but substantial, built to last rather than impress. Everything was immaculate, almost obsessively so, which made me acutely aware of my own disheveled state. My hand moved unconsciously to my split lip, wincing at the tender swelling. At least Lorraine had given me ice before she left. And aspirin. And a fierce hug that had made tears burn behind my eyes, because I couldn't remember the last time someone had touched me with kindness instead of violence. "He's not what you think," she'd said cryptically before disappearing into the night. "Lucas, if he finds out what Derek did to you..." She'd stopped there, leaving the implication hanging. I didn't ask what she meant. Didn't want to know what kind of man inspired that particular tone in Lorraine's voice, equal parts fear and absolute certainty. The leather sofa creaked softly as I finally gave up on sleep and sat up, pulling my knees to my chest. The nightgown Lorraine had lent me was beautiful, champagne-colored silk that felt like water against my skin, but it left me feeling vulnerable, exposed. I should have insisted on keeping my jeans and sweater, blood-stained as they were. A sound from the hallway made me freeze. Footsteps. Heavy, measured, deliberate. My heart slammed against my ribs as the penthouse door opened, and I heard the soft beep of a security system being disarmed. No. No, no. No. Lorraine said he wouldn't be back until tomorrow. I pressed myself deeper into the sofa cushions, trying to make myself smaller as the footsteps moved through the apartment. A light clicked on in the kitchen, spilling warm illumination across the hardwood floors. I could see his shadow now, tall and broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of confidence that came from never having to look over your shoulder. "Lorraine?" A deep voice called out, rough with exhaustion. "I thought I told you to stop using my place for your..." He rounded the corner into the living room and stopped dead. Our eyes met across the darkness, and I watched his entire body go still in a way that made my survival instincts scream warnings. This was a predator recognizing unexpected prey. Even in the dim light filtering from the kitchen, I could make out his features. Dark hair slightly mussed from travel, strong jaw shadowed with stubble, eyes so dark they looked black. He wore a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, the top 3 buttons undone, revealing the hollow of his throat. His jacket hung from one hand, forgotten. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then his eyes traveled over me, taking in the silk nightgown, my bruised face, the way I'd instinctively curled into myself, and something dangerous flickered across his features. "Who are you?" His voice was low, controlled, but with an edge that made goosebumps rise on my arms. I should have been terrified, should have been stammering apologies and explanations. But something about the way he stood there, blocking the only exit, assuming authority over this space and everyone in it, made anger surge through me instead of fear. I'd spent 2 years cowering before Derek's rages. I was done cowering. "Lily," I said, lifting my chin despite the pain it caused. "Lily Parker, and you must be the cousin Lorraine conveniently forgot to mention was coming home early." His eyebrow arched slightly. "Lucas Moretti, and this is my home you're sleeping in." I'm aware. I didn't break eye contact, even though every instinct screamed at me to look away from those dark, assessing eyes. "Lorraine said I could stay here tonight. If that's a problem, I can leave." I started to stand, but he held up one hand, not threatening, just a gesture that somehow carried more authority than Derek's fists ever had. "Don't." He set his jacket down on a chair with deliberate care, then moved closer. Not rushing, but closing the distance between us with the kind of patience that was somehow more intimidating than aggression. "Who did that to your face?" The question caught me off guard. Not what happened, but who. As if violence done to me was a personal affront that required accounting. "No one." The lie tasted bitter. "Try again." He stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could smell him now. Expensive cologne mixed with airplane recycling and something uniquely male. "And this time, don't insult either of our intelligence." My jaw tightened. "It's handled." "Is it?" He tilted his head slightly, studying me the way a scientist might study an interesting specimen. "Because from where I'm standing, you're hiding in my apartment wearing my cousin's nightgown with a split lip and what looks like fingerprint bruises on your arms. That doesn't look handled. That looks like you're running." Heat flooded my cheeks. I hadn't realized the bruises on my upper arms were visible. Derek's fingers, marking me like brands. "I don't need rescuing," I said through gritted teeth. "I just need one night." Lorraine offered. I accepted. "Tomorrow morning I'll be gone, and you can forget you ever saw me." "Will I?" Something almost like amusement flickered across his face. "You're quite memorable, Lily Parker." The way he said my name, slow, deliberate, as if tasting it, sent an unwelcome shiver down my spine. This was bad. This was very bad. I needed to leave, needed to get away from this man whose mere presence seemed to suck all the oxygen from the room. I stood, wrapping my arms around myself. I should go. It's 3 a.m. He didn't move to stop me, but his voice carried a note of command that made me pause. "Where exactly would you go?" "Nowhere." I had nowhere. That was the problem. Derek had systematically isolated me from friends, made me quit my job, controlled every dollar. The only person I had left was Lorraine, and even that connection I'd kept secret from him. "I'll figure something out." "Sit down." "Excuse me?" I turned to face him fully, anger overriding self-preservation. "You don't get to order me around." His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Most people don't talk to me like that. Maybe they should. For a long moment, we stared at each other, some kind of silent battle being waged. Then, to my complete surprise, he laughed. A low, genuine sound that transformed his face from intimidating to almost approachable. "Lorraine didn't mention you had a spine of steel." Lorraine knows better than to underestimate women. Clearly. He moved to a bar cart in the corner, pouring 2 fingers of amber liquid into a crystal glass. "Whiskey." "I don't drink." "Tonight you do." He poured a second glass, brought it to me. Trust me. After whatever you've been through, you need it. I wanted to refuse, wanted to maintain my dignity and independence, but my hands were shaking, and he was right. I needed something to take the edge off the adrenaline still coursing through my system. I took the glass, our fingers brushing briefly. His skin was warm, calloused in unexpected places, not soft like Derek's, but marked by use. Thank you. He nodded, then lowered himself into the chair across from me with fluid grace. Now, tell me who did this to you. Why do you care? Because you're in my home. Because my cousin clearly thought you needed protection badly enough to risk my anger. Because... He paused, his gaze dropping to my bruised arms. Because no one should look as terrified as you did when I walked through that door. The sincerity in his voice nearly undid me. I took a too large sip of whiskey, coughing as it burned down my throat. My husband, I finally admitted, the word tasting like poison. Derek Ashford. He's Assistant District Attorney Derek Ashford? Lucas's entire demeanor changed, his body going perfectly still in a way that reminded me of a predator scenting blood. That's your husband? I nodded, confused by his reaction. You know him? Of him. His voice had gone cold. Lily, does Derek know where you are right now? No, at least I don't think so. Lorraine was careful. Lorraine. He pulled out his phone, fingers moving rapidly across the screen. Did my brilliant cousin mention what I do for a living? She said you were an import-export, another of those not-quite smiles. That's one way of putting it. Before I could ask what he meant, his phone rang. He answered immediately, his voice dropping into rapid Italian I couldn't follow. But I caught Derek's name, and my own, and several words that sounded like curses. When he ended the call, his expression was grim. What? I demanded. What's wrong? Derek Ashford isn't just an ADA, Lily. He's dirty. Works for the Marchetti family, helps them navigate legal troubles, makes evidence disappear. And if he knows you've left him, he'll come looking. I finished, the whiskey turning to acid in my stomach. I know. That's why I need to disappear. No. Lucas leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. That's why you're staying here. I can't ask. You're not asking. I'm telling you. His voice carried absolute authority. Derek Ashford is a problem. And you, Lily Parker, just became my responsibility. I don't care what you need. He cut me off. I care about what you're getting, which is protection. My protection. For as long as it takes to make sure Derek never raises a hand to you again. I should have been offended by his high-handedness. Should have argued against being claimed as a responsibility by this stranger. But something in his eyes stopped me. Not pity. Not even kindness. Just absolute, unwavering certainty that he meant every word. Why would you do this? I whispered. You don't even know me. No, he agreed, his gaze holding mine. But I know Derek Ashford, and I know that anyone brave enough to run from him, brave enough to talk back to me, deserves better than what he gave you. The sincerity in his words made my throat tight. I blinked back tears, refusing to cry in front of this intimidating stranger who was offering me safety for reasons I didn't understand. One condition, I managed. His eyebrow arched. You're negotiating? Always. I squared my shoulders despite the pain. I'm not your charity case, Lucas Moretti. If I'm staying here, I pay my way somehow. Work, cleaning, I don't care. But I won't be a kept woman. Not again. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe, or intrigue. Deal. Though I suspect you'll regret that particular demand when you see what I consider appropriate payment. Try me. His smile this time was genuine, if slightly dangerous. Oh, I intend to, Lily Parker. I very much intend to. The morning sun sliced through the penthouse windows like a blade, pulling me from restless sleep. For a moment, I forgot where I was, my body tensing instinctively, waiting for Derek's weight on the bed, his hands demanding, his breath sour with last night's scotch. Then I registered the unfamiliar softness beneath me, the expensive sheets, the absolute silence, and memory crashed back. I was in Lucas Moretti's guest room. The man himself had disappeared into his bedroom around 4 a.m. after making me promise, 3 times, that I wouldn't try to leave before he woke up. I'd agreed, too exhausted to argue, too shaken by everything that had happened to trust my own judgment about what to do next. Now, in the stark light of day, the reality of my situation settled over me like a weighted blanket. I'd left Derek, actually left him. After 2 years of threats and violence and promises that he'd kill me if I tried, I'd finally done it. The knowledge should have felt liberating. Instead, it just made me nauseous. A soft knock at the door made me start. "Lily? You awake?" Not Lucas's voice. Too feminine, too familiar. "Lorraine?" She swept in like a force of nature, carrying a garment bag and what looked like several shopping bags. Her perfectly styled blonde hair and designer suit made me acutely aware of my own disheveled state. "Don't give me that look," she said, draping the garment bag over a chair. "Lucas called me at dawn, read me the riot act for not telling him who you were running from, then demanded I bring you appropriate clothes since you left with nothing but the nightgown on your back. I don't need—" "Yes, you do." She sat on the edge of the bed, her expression softening. "Lily, honey, I know you're proud, but Derek has frozen your accounts. I already checked. You literally have nothing right now except what we give you." The words hit like a physical blow. Of course he had. Derek controlled everything. The house, the cars, every credit card. In his mind, I was property that had tried to escape. He'd do whatever it took to force me back. "How did you know to check?" "Because I know how men like Derek operate." Her voice carried a bitterness I'd never heard before. "My father was the same way. Charming in public, monster behind closed doors. It's why I swore I'd never let another woman go through what my mother did if I could help it." I'd known Lorraine for 6 months, ever since she'd started volunteering at the gallery. We'd bonded over shared love of Renaissance art and expensive coffee. But she'd never mentioned her past, and I'd never asked. We'd kept things surface level, friendly, but not intimate, which made what she'd done for me, hiding me from Derek, bringing me here, even more remarkable. "Thank you," I whispered, my throat tight. "For everything. Thank Lucas." She stood, moving to the garment bag. "He's the one who's about to turn your life upside down." "What does that mean?" "It means my dear cousin has decided you're his responsibility. And when Lucas Moretti decides something, heaven help anyone who gets in his way." She unzipped the bag, revealing an elegant black dress. "Including you." Before I could respond, another knock interrupted us. This time it was Lucas himself, looking unfairly put together in charcoal slacks and a crisp white shirt, sleeves already rolled to his elbows. His dark eyes assessed me quickly. Clinical, thorough, before shifting to Lorraine. "Did you tell her?" I was getting to it. "Tell me what?" I demanded, hating being discussed like I wasn't in the room. Lucas stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click that somehow felt ominous. "Derek filed a missing persons report this morning. Claims you've been kidnapped. The police are looking for you." Ice flooded my veins. "That's insane. I left of my own free will." "Which you'll need to prove." He leaned against the dresser, arms crossed. "Unfortunately, your history of falling downstairs and walking into doors is well documented. Derek's painted himself as the concerned husband whose mentally unstable wife has gone missing. Mentally unstable? Anger burned through the ice. That son of a... Breathe, Lorraine interrupted, squeezing my shoulder. Lucas has a plan. Of course he does. I looked at Lucas, trying to read his inscrutable expression. Let me guess. I stay here, hidden, while you figure out how to make Derek go away? Close. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. You stay here, very visible, very clearly of sound mind and making your own choices. We arrange for you to give a statement to the police, with my lawyer present, explaining that you left because Derek was abusive. Then we get you a restraining order and file assault charges. It sounded logical, reasonable, exactly what anyone would advise. But the thought of facing Derek in court, of making our private nightmare public, made my stomach churn. He'll never let that happen. Derek has connections, judges he's helped, cops who owe him favors. They'll bury my testimony and make me look crazy. Normally, yes. Lucas straightened, moving closer. But Derek doesn't know I'm involved yet, and once he finds out you're under my protection, his options become significantly more limited. Because you're, what, more powerful than an assistant DA? Because I'm someone Derek Ashford wouldn't dare cross. His voice was matter of fact, not boasting. Let's just say my family has been in Chicago longer than Derek's career, and our influence extends into places he can't reach. The implication hung in the air. Lorraine had mentioned her family was well-connected, but I'd assumed that meant old money and social standing. The way Lucas spoke suggested something darker. You're Mafia. It wasn't a question. I prefer businessman with diverse interests. But he didn't deny it. Does that bother you? I should have said yes. Should have been horrified, demanding he let me leave immediately. But Derek was a prosecutor who'd sworn to uphold the law while breaking me systematically behind closed doors. At least Lucas was honest about what he was. Should it? Most people would think so. Most people haven't spent 2 years married to a sociopath with a law degree. I met his gaze steadily. At this point, I'm more concerned with results than methods. Something shifted in his expression. Approval, maybe, or recognition. Good. Because my methods aren't always legal. Lucas, Lorraine warned. She deserves to know what she's agreeing to. He kept his eyes on mine. If you accept my protection, Lily, it comes with certain implications. People will assume things about us, about what you are to me, and what am I to you? The question emerged before I could stop it. Right now, someone who needs help that I'm capable of providing. He paused. But perception is everything in my world. If Derek believes you're just a random woman I'm sheltering out of kindness, he'll keep pushing. But if he believes you're mine... I'm not anyone's, I interrupted sharply, old fury rising. Not Derek's, not yours, not anyone's. Instead of looking offended, Lucas smiled, a real smile that transformed his face from intimidating to devastatingly handsome. Noted. Poor choice of words. Let me rephrase. If Derek believes you're important to me, that you're under my personal protection rather than just general hospitality, he'll think twice before making a move. So you want me to pretend to be what? Your girlfriend? For now, just someone staying in my home who I have a vested interest in protecting. We'll let Derek's paranoid imagination fill in the details. It was manipulative, calculated, exactly the kind of thing Derek would do, using people's perceptions against them. But Lucas wasn't using it to control me. He was using it to keep me safe. Fine, I agreed. What do I need to do? Lorraine exhaled audibly, relief evident on her face. Get dressed for starters. We have a meeting with Lucas's lawyer in 2 hours. The dress Lorraine had brought fit perfectly. Expensive, Understated. Exactly the kind of thing I used to wear when Derek would parade me at functions. Professional enough for a lawyer's office, but with a subtle edge that suggested I wasn't someone to be dismissed. "How did you know my size?" I asked as she helped me zip the back. "I pay attention." She handed me a pair of heels that somehow managed to be both elegant and practical. Lucas does too, by the way. He notices everything. Is that a warning? More like friendly advice. She started on my hair, braiding it back from my face in a style that looked sophisticated while hiding the worst of my bruising. "My cousin isn't like other men, Lily. He's dangerous, yes, but he's also fiercely protective of the people he considers his. You're under his roof now, wearing clothes he paid for, accepting his protection. Whether you like it or not, that makes you his in every way that matters to him." I told him I'm not. I know what you told him, and I'm sure he listened. But Lucas has his own code, his own rules, and one of those rules is that he protects what's his. You don't have to agree to be his, for him to claim you as such in his own mind. The words should have alarmed me, should have sent me running despite having nowhere to go. But something about Lucas's brand of possession felt different from Derek's. Derek had owned me like a trophy, something to display and control and punish when it disappointed him. Lucas's claiming felt more like, what? Protection? Territory marking? "You're overthinking it," Lorraine said, reading my expression in the mirror. "Just let Lucas handle Derek. That's what he's good at, handling problems." The lawyer's office was in a building I recognized, one of those prestigious addresses where hourly rates started at 4 figures. Marcus Romano turned out to be a silver-haired man in his 60s, with kind eyes and a handshake that radiated competence. "Mrs. Ashford," he greeted me, gesturing to a leather chair. "Or do you prefer Ms. Parker?" "Parker," I said firmly. "I'll be filing for divorce as soon as possible." "Of course." He exchanged a look with Lucas, who'd insisted on coming with me. "Now, Lucas has briefed me on the situation. I need you to walk me through everything, and I mean everything, that Derek has done. Don't leave anything out, no matter how small or embarrassing it seems." The next hour was excruciating. I detailed every blow, every threat, every time Derek had made me feel small and worthless and trapped. Marcus took notes without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions that made me realize just how methodically Derek had isolated and controlled me. "The fingerprint bruises on your arms," Marcus said. "Were there others?" "Almost always." My voice had gone flat, detached. He was careful to hit where clothes would cover it. Stomach, ribs, thighs. Never the face except... I gestured to my split lip. That was new. I think he was losing control. "Good," Lucas said quietly. Both Marcus and I looked at him. "Not good that he hurt you," he clarified. "Good that he's getting sloppy. Men like Derek rely on maintaining their carefully constructed image. When they start losing control, they make mistakes." "He's right," Marcus agreed. The visible facial injury, combined with the missing persons report, actually works in our favor. It shows a pattern of escalation that will be harder for Derek to explain away. "Now I need you to see a doctor today, a forensic specialist who can document all your injuries thoroughly." "Why?" "Derek will just claim I got them somewhere else." "Perhaps." Marcus's smile was sharp. "But Dr. Chen is exceptionally good at her job. She can date bruises, determine the force required to create them, build a timeline that will be very difficult to dispute. And her testimony is admissible in court." The weight of what I was about to do settled over me. This wasn't just leaving Derek. This was going to war with him, using his own legal system against him. "What if he retaliates?" I asked. Derek isn't the kind of man who accepts defeat gracefully. "He won't get the chance," Lucas said, his voice carrying absolute certainty. "Starting today, you don't go anywhere without security. My security. Derek won't be able to get within 100 feet of you. That's not sustainable long term." It doesn't need to be. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Derek's smart enough to know when he's outmatched. Once he realizes you have real protection, real legal support, and real evidence that could destroy his career, he'll back off. Men like him only fight battles they can win. I wanted to believe him. But I'd spent 2 years learning to read Derek's moods, his threats, his patterns. And I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Derek Ashford didn't let go of what he considered his. You don't know him like I do, I said quietly. Derek would rather destroy something than lose it. If he can't have me, he'll make sure no one can. Lucas and Marcus exchanged another look, some silent communication passing between them. Then Lucas stood, buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. Then we'll make sure he understands that trying to destroy you means destroying himself. His dark eyes met mine. Trust me, Lily. I've dealt with men like Derek before. He's dangerous, but he's not invincible. And he's definitely not worth losing sleep over. But as we left the lawyer's office, Lucas's security detail falling into step around us with military precision, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were all underestimating Derek. That he was out there right now, planning something none of us saw coming. And I was right. Dr. Chen's examination room smelled of antiseptic and something floral. Lavender, maybe. Meant to be soothing, but only making my stomach churn. I sat on the paper-covered table in a hospital gown, goosebumps rising on my exposed skin as the forensic specialist photographed every bruise, every mark Derek had left on my body like his personal signature. "This one on your ribs," Dr. Chen said, her gloved fingers gentle as she pressed the yellowing bruise. Approximately 2 weeks old, consistent with a kick or forceful shove against a hard surface. "Coffee table," I confirmed, my voice hollow. He pushed me during an argument about dinner being late. Click, another photograph. Another piece of evidence in the case I was building against the man I'd once loved. Or thought I loved. It was getting harder to remember if what I'd felt for Derek had ever been real, or just the desperate hope that someone like him, successful, charming, from the right kind of family, could actually want someone like me. And these, Dr. Chen indicated the finger-shaped bruises on my upper arms. 2 days ago, he grabbed me when I tried to leave the house, said I needed his permission to go anywhere. But you left anyway. Not then. I stared at the wall, at the anatomical posters that reduced human bodies to labeled diagrams. That night, while he was sleeping. I packed nothing. Just ran. Dr. Chen made a note, then looked up at me with eyes that had seen too much. "You were brave to leave, Mrs. Ashford. Most don't." "Parker," I corrected automatically. And I wasn't brave. I was desperate. There's a difference. Through the thin walls, I could hear voices. Lucas talking to someone in low, urgent tones. He'd insisted on staying, parking himself in the waiting room like some kind of designer-clad sentinel. It should have annoyed me, this assumption that I needed protecting even in a doctor's office. Instead, I found it oddly comforting. "All done with photos," Dr. Chen announced, stripping off her gloves. "Now I need to take blood samples and do a gynecological exam to check for—" "I'm not pregnant," I interrupted quickly. "And Derek never. He hit me, but he didn't." "It's standard procedure," she said gently, "to ensure there's no evidence we're missing." An hour later, I emerged from the examination room feeling stripped raw. Every private violation now documented and photographed for strangers to examine. Lucas stood immediately when he saw me, his dark eyes sweeping over my face with an intensity that made me want to either run or step closer. I couldn't decide which. "How are you?" Not "are you okay?" Because clearly I wasn't. Just a simple question that acknowledged reality. Exhausted, humiliated, ready to go home. I paused. Wherever home is now. My place. He said it like it was obvious, at least until we get Derek handled. You keep saying that, handled, like he's a problem that can be solved with enough money or intimidation. I pushed past him toward the exit, suddenly needing air, space, anything but the suffocating sympathy in that office. But Derek isn't just some thug you can threaten into submission. He's smart, connected, and absolutely convinced he owns me. You don't just handle that. Lucas caught my elbow gently, stopping me in the hallway. People flowed around us, nurses, visitors, patients, but he didn't seem to notice or care. "You're right," he said quietly. "I can't threaten Derek the way I would a normal problem, but that doesn't mean I can't stop him." "How?" The question came out sharper than intended. "What's your master plan, Lucas? Because from where I'm standing, all you've done is paint a target on my back by taking me in. Derek's going to see this as an insult, a challenge. He's going to come at me twice as hard just to prove he can. Let him try." Something dangerous flickered in Lucas's eyes. "I'm counting on it." Before I could ask what he meant, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his expression hardening. "I need to take this." He stepped away, speaking in rapid Italian to whoever was on the other end. I caught my name, Derek's, and several words that sounded like curses. When he returned, his entire demeanor had changed. Sharper, more focused, like a weapon being drawn from its sheath. "Derek knows where you are." My blood turned to ice. "How?" "He has a friend at the hospital. Someone saw you come in with me, recognized both of us, made a call." Lucas's hand found the small of my back, guiding me toward the exit with gentle insistence. "My car's out front. We need to leave. Now." "Is he coming here?" "No, but he's filed for a restraining order against me, claiming I'm holding you against your will. Also filed a petition for emergency custody on the grounds that you're mentally unfit and I'm a dangerous influence." "Emergency custody of what?" "We don't have..." Understanding hit like a slap. "He thinks I'm pregnant. Or he's covering his bases in case you are." Lucas pushed open the hospital's front entrance, where a black SUV waited at the curb. Either way, he's moving faster than I expected. The ride back to the penthouse was silent, tense. I pressed my forehead against the cool window, watching Chicago blur past while my mind raced. Derek was a prosecutor. He knew how to work the system, how to make lies sound like truth, how to weaponize the law against the people it was meant to protect. "This was a mistake," I said finally. "I should never have involved you. Derek's going to destroy both of us just to make a point." "No," Lucas's voice was absolute. "He's going to try. There's a difference." Back at the penthouse, Lorraine was waiting with another woman I didn't recognize. Petite, dark-haired, with eyes that assessed me with professional detachment. "Lily, this is Sophia Martinelli," Lucas introduced us. "My head of security." I blinked. You're a woman." Sophia's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Congratulations on your observational skills. Yes, I'm a woman. I'm also former Secret Service, and one of the best in the business at keeping people alive when other people want them dead. Any other questions?" I liked her immediately. "Can you really keep Derek away from me?" "I can keep the president of Russia away from you if Mr. Moretti pays me enough." She pulled out a tablet, fingers flying across the screen. "But I need you to be honest with me about Derek's patterns. Where does he go? Who does he talk to? What are his weaknesses?" For the next hour, I spilled everything I knew about my soon-to-be ex-husband. His Tuesday golf games with Judge Morrison, his Thursday drinks with the police commissioner, his Friday night poker games in the back room of Vinny's, where he thought I didn't know he was laundering money for the Marchetti family. "Wait." Lucas held up a hand. "Derek's laundering money for the Marchettis?" "Has been for 2 years. I found the ledgers in his study once when I was looking for stamps." I shrugged at their shocked expressions. Derek's not as careful as he thinks. He gets cocky, makes mistakes. Sophia and Lucas exchanged a look that I was beginning to recognize, that silent communication that said I just handed them something valuable. "What?" I demanded. "What does that mean?" "It means," Lucas said slowly, "that Derek just became a lot more vulnerable than he realizes. The Marchettis are old school. They don't like attention, don't like complications. If they find out their pet prosecutor is making waves that could bring scrutiny to their operations, they'll cut him loose," Sophia finished, "probably permanently." The casual way she said permanently made my stomach twist. I don't want Derek dead. I just want him gone. "Dead, discredited, doesn't matter to me," Lucas said. "What matters is that he stops being a threat to you." "But killing him? Who said anything about killing him?" Lucas moved to the bar, pouring himself 2 fingers of scotch. "I said the Marchettis might cut him loose. That could mean a lot of things. Fired, blacklisted, encouraged to leave town and never come back. Death is messy, draws attention. Much easier to just ruin someone's life until they wish they were dead." The ruthless practicality in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it was oddly reassuring. Lucas wasn't some volatile hothead like Derek. He was calculated, strategic, thinking 3 moves ahead. "So what's the plan?" I asked. "We let Derek keep digging his own grave." Lucas took a sip of scotch. "Let him file his restraining orders and custody petitions. Let him make noise about me kidnapping you. Meanwhile, we gather evidence, not just of him hurting you, but of his dirty dealings with the Marchettis. Then we give him a choice. Disappear quietly. Or we expose everything and let him explain to both the police and his Mafia benefactors why he's suddenly a liability. That's blackmail." "No." His smile was sharp. "That's business. And if he doesn't take the deal, then we go to war." He said it like he was discussing the weather. But Derek's smarter than that. When faced with losing everything, his career, his freedom, his life, he'll take the escape route we offer him. I wanted to believe it would be that simple. But I'd seen Derek's face when he lost at poker, when someone challenged him in court, when anything didn't go exactly his way. He didn't handle defeat well. He handled it with violence. "You're all assuming Derek is rational," I said quietly. "That he'll make the logical choice when cornered. But you're wrong. Derek doesn't think like that. When he feels attacked, he lashes out. He doesn't care about consequences. He just wants to hurt whoever hurt him." Lucas set down his glass with precise care. "Then we make sure he can't reach you to do that hurting." "How? By keeping me locked in your penthouse forever?" "For now, yes." His dark eyes held mine. "I know it's not ideal, Lily. I know you value your independence. But until Derek is neutralized, one way or another, this is the safest place for you." "Safe," I repeated bitterly. "Is that what this is? Because it feels a lot like another kind of cage." Hurt flickered across Lucas's face, quickly masked. "If that's how you see it. How else should I see it?" Frustration bubbled over. "I can't leave without security. Can't make decisions without consulting you. Can't even buy my own clothes because Derek froze my accounts and you insist on paying for everything. How is that different from being with Derek?" "Because I'm not hitting you," Lucas said quietly. "Because you can walk out that door anytime you want and I won't stop you. Because everything I'm doing is to protect you, not control you." "Is there a difference?" The silence that followed my question was heavy, weighted with things neither of us wanted to say. Lorraine and Sophia had made themselves scarce, disappearing into another room to give us privacy. "Yes," Lucas finally said. "There's a difference. Control is about ownership, about making someone else into what you want them to be. Protection is about keeping someone safe so they can be exactly who they are." Pretty words. truth. He moved closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, cedar and bergamot, expensive and dark. Lily, I'm not Derek. I'm not trying to make you small or dependent or afraid. I'm trying to keep you alive long enough to get free of him. That's it. That's all this is. Is it? The question emerged before I could stop it, because something had shifted between us in the past 2 days. Something I didn't want to examine too closely but couldn't ignore. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. The way my skin heated when he stood too close. The dangerous pull toward this man who was supposed to be just my temporary protector. Lucas's jaw tightened. What are you asking, Lily? I don't know. I wrapped my arms around myself. Everything's happening so fast. 2 days ago, I was Derek's wife. Now I'm living with a man I barely know, trusting him to save me from my own bad choices, feeling things I have no right to feel. What things? His voice had gone low, dangerous. I should have deflected, should have walked away. But exhaustion and stress and 2 years of being silenced made me reckless. This pull toward you. This feeling that maybe I'm trading one cage for another, except this one's gilded, and the man who owns it makes my heart race, for reasons that have nothing to do with fear. Lucas went perfectly still. I don't own you. Don't you? I challenged. You pay for my food, my clothes, my safety. You make decisions about my life without consulting me. You've made me dependent on you in every way that matters. How is that not ownership? Because you can leave anytime you want, he repeated, but his eyes had darkened with something that made my breath catch. Because I would never force you to stay. Because what I feel for you. He stopped, shaking his head. This isn't the time. What you feel for me. My heart was hammering now. Lucas, what are you? The sound of shattering glass cut through my question. We both spun toward the windows, where a brick lay among glittering shards on the hardwood floor. Wrapped around it was a piece of paper secured with a rubber band. Sophia appeared immediately, gun drawn, moving to the window with professional efficiency. Everyone back. Now. Lucas pulled me behind him, instinctive, protective, while Sophia examined the brick, using a pen to flip open the note without touching it. Her face darkened as she read. What does it say? I demanded. You don't want to know. Tell me anyway. Sophia looked at Lucas, who nodded tersely. She read aloud, her voice flat. She belongs to me. You can't keep what's mine. I'm coming for her, and when I do, I'll make sure there's nothing left for you to protect. The blood drained from my face. This was Derek at his worst, possessive, violent, utterly convinced I was his property to reclaim or destroy. That's it, Lucas said, his voice lethal. We're moving. Moving where? Somewhere Derek can't find you. Somewhere safer than here, now that he knows where you are. He pulled out his phone, already dialing. Pack what you need. We leave in an hour. Lucas, wait. No more waiting. His eyes met mine, and I saw something fierce and protective and absolutely immovable. Derek just made this personal. He wants war? He'll get it. But first, I'm making sure you're somewhere he can't reach you even if he burns down the whole city trying. The somewhere safer turned out to be a sprawling estate an hour outside Chicago, hidden behind iron gates and enough security to guard Fort Knox. Lucas's family home, he'd explained during the tense car ride, rarely used but maintained perfectly. Just in case. Just in case of what? I'd wanted to ask. But the grim set of his jaw had discouraged questions. Now I stood in a bedroom that probably cost more than my parents' entire house, staring at walls covered in cream silk and wondering how my life had spiraled so completely out of control. 2 days ago, I'd been married to Derek, trapped but familiar. Now I was... what? A refugee in a mobster's mansion? A protected witness? A problem to be hidden away until the adults figured out how to handle it? A soft knock interrupted my spiraling thoughts. Lily? It's Lorraine. I opened the door to find her carrying what looked like dinner on a tray. Pasta in a rich tomato sauce that smelled like heaven. Lucas thought you might be hungry. You didn't eat all day. My stomach chose that moment to growl loudly, betraying me. Lorraine smiled, setting the tray on an antique table near the window. Eat. I'll keep you company. I sat, twirling pasta around my fork mechanically. Where is he? Lucas, handling things. She perched on the edge of an armchair, elegant even in her casual sweater and jeans. Which means he's making calls to people who owe him favors. Building a case against Derek that will be impossible to fight. By doing illegal things. By doing what needs to be done. Lorraine's voice was gentle, but firm. Look, I know this world, Lucas's world, isn't what you're used to. It's morally gray at best, definitely outside the bounds of normal law. But it's also incredibly effective at protecting people who need it. Like me. Like you. She paused. My cousin isn't a white knight, Lily. He's dangerous, ruthless when he needs to be, and capable of things that would shock you. But he's also fiercely loyal, protective to a fault, and once he decides someone is his to protect. She shrugged. Heaven help anyone who tries to hurt them. That's the second time someone said I'm his to protect, like I'm property. No, like your family. Lorraine leaned forward. There's a difference, even if the language sounds similar. In Lucas's world, family isn't just about blood. It's about loyalty, about choosing to protect someone because they matter, not because you own them. I wanted to believe her, but Derek had used similar words, calling me his family, his responsibility, his to protect, right before tightening his control until I could barely breathe. How do I know Lucas won't turn into Derek? The question came out smaller than I intended. How do I know this protection won't become control? Lorraine was quiet for a long moment. You don't, she finally said. Not with absolute certainty, but I can tell you this. I've known Lucas my entire life, and I've never once seen him hurt someone weaker than him. Never seen him use his power to control or manipulate people who couldn't fight back. His enemies? Yes. People who cross him? Absolutely. But someone he's protecting? She shook her head. Never. There's always a first time. True. She stood, moving to the window that overlooked the estate's manicured grounds. But I don't think you'll be it. Lucas looks at you differently than he's ever looked at anyone, Lily. Like you're something precious he can't quite believe he gets to protect. Heat rose in my cheeks. That's ridiculous. He barely knows me. Sometimes that doesn't matter. Lorraine's reflection smiled at me in the window glass. Sometimes you just know when someone, is going to change everything. Before I could respond, male voices drifted up from downstairs. Lucas and someone else, speaking in Italian too rapid for me to follow. But I caught the emotion. Anger, carefully controlled but present. I should check on him, Lorraine said. Stay here. Try to rest. You're safe, Lily. That's the only thing that matters right now. After she left, I picked at my pasta, each bite tasteless despite its obvious quality. Safe. Everyone kept saying I was safe, like it was that simple. But safety was relative when your estranged husband was a prosecutor with Mafia connections, and your protector was a mobster who looked at you like you were a puzzle he desperately wanted to solve. I must have dozed off in the chair, because I woke to darkness and the sound of footsteps in the hallway. For a heart-stopping moment, I thought it was Derek, that he'd found me, that all of Lucas's protection had been for nothing. Then the door opened, and Lucas appeared, still in his dress shirt and slacks despite the late hour. He stopped when he saw me awake, surprise flickering across his face. "I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't." I sat up, pushing hair out of my face. I couldn't sleep. He moved into the room, and I caught the scent of whiskey and exhaustion rolling off him. Understandable. Today was. He trailed off, apparently unable to find words adequate to describe the chaos. "How bad is it?" I asked. "With Derek?" Lucas sank into the chair Lorraine had vacated, suddenly looking every bit as tired as I felt. "He's escalating. Filed a dozen motions today alone, all designed to make you look unstable and me look like I'm manipulating you. Also reached out to the Marchettis, trying to convince them I'm encroaching on their territory by protecting you." "Am I? Their territory?" "Not even close." His lips curved into a humorless smile. "Derek's their money launderer, nothing more, but he's trying to make himself sound more important than he is, trying to get them to see you as a Marchetti problem that I'm interfering with." "Will they buy it?" "No, but it shows how desperate Derek's getting." Lucas leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "He can't get to you through normal channels, so he's trying to manufacture a war between me and the Marchettis, hoping they'll force me to hand you over." The calculation in Derek's plan was terrifyingly familiar. He'd always been 3 steps ahead, always thinking strategically even when he was beating me. I'd underestimated him once, thinking I could just leave and disappear. I wouldn't make that mistake again. "So what do we do?" "We wait." Lucas's dark eyes met mine. "I've already reached out to Giovanni Marchetti, their boss, and explained the situation. Sent him copies of Derek's ledgers that you helped me understand. Giovanni's. Let's say he's not pleased that his employee has been keeping such detailed records of illegal transactions. You're going to get Derek killed." It should have horrified me. Instead, I felt only a numb acceptance. "No. I'm going to let Derek's own actions get him fired. What happens after that is between him and the Marchettis." Lucas stood, moving to the window. "For what it's worth, I don't think Giovanni will kill him. Too messy, too much attention, but he'll make sure Derek understands that continuing to make waves is inadvisable. And if Derek doesn't take the hint, then we move to plan B. Which is..." Lucas turned, his face half-shadowed in the dim light. "We destroy him completely. Financial records to the FBI. Abuse documentation to the State Bar Association. Everything we have, all at once, until there's nothing left of Derek Ashford except a shell of a man facing decades in prison." The viciousness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it sparked something that felt dangerously like hope. "You'd really do that for me?" "I'd do that for anyone Derek hurt." Lucas moved closer, stopping just outside my personal space, close enough to feel his presence but not so close as to crowd me. "But yes, Lily, for you I'd do worse." The admission hung in the air between us, weighted with implications I wasn't ready to examine. This man had known me for 2 days. 2 days. And yet he spoke about destroying my tormentor with the kind of conviction most people reserved for blood family. Why? The question emerged as barely a whisper. "Why do you care so much?" Lucas was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Because you remind me of my sister." I blinked, surprised. "You have a sister?" "Had." Pain flickered across his face. "Maria. She was married to a man not unlike Derek. Charming, successful, violent behind closed doors. She tried to leave him 3 times. The 3rd time, he killed her. Made it look like an accident." His hands clenched into fists. "I was 18, away at college. By the time I got home, she was already buried, and her husband was free because he had connections, alibis, friends in high places. Lucas, I'm so sorry. I swore that day. He continued as if I hadn't spoken. That I would never let another woman suffer the way Maria did if I had the power to prevent it. So when Lorraine brought you to my penthouse, when I saw those bruises on your face, I saw my sister. And this time, I'm not 18. This time, I have the power to actually do something. Understanding crashed over me. This wasn't about me, not really. This was about a promise made by a grieving teenager to a dead sister. I was a proxy, a chance at redemption for a tragedy he couldn't prevent. The knowledge should have made me feel better. This wasn't personal, wasn't about him wanting to control me the way Derek had. But instead, it stung in a way I didn't want to examine. I'm not your sister, I said quietly. No. Lucas's eyes refocused on me, really seeing me again. No, you're not. Maria was gentle, trusting, believed the best in people even when they didn't deserve it. He paused, searching for words. You're steel wrapped in silk, Lily Parker. You survived 2 years with Derek and came out still fighting. That's not Maria. That's all you. The words settled over me like a warm blanket, soothing bruises I hadn't realized I still carried. I don't feel like steel. You don't have to feel it to be it. Lucas reached out, his hand hovering near my face before he caught himself and dropped it. The fact that you're here, that you left Derek despite having nowhere to go and nothing to your name, that takes a kind of strength most people never find. Or desperation. Steel forged in fire is still steel. His lips curved into a slight smile. Stop diminishing yourself, Lily. Derek spent 2 years making you small. Don't finish the job for him. The observation hit harder than any of Derek's fists ever had. Because Lucas was right. I had internalized Derek's voice, his constant criticism, his insistence that I was weak and useless without him. Even now, free of him, I was still letting him define me. I don't know how to stop, I admitted. One day at a time. Lucas moved toward the door, giving me space again. For now, get some sleep. Tomorrow we start building your new life. One where Derek Ashford is nothing more than a bad memory. He was almost out the door when I called out, Lucas? He paused, looking back. Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when I felt invisible. Something shifted in his expression, softened. You were never invisible, Lily. Not to me. After he left, I sat in the darkness for a long time, processing everything. Lucas Moretti was dangerous, connected to a world I wanted no part of, and protecting me for reasons tangled up in his own trauma. And yet I felt safer with him than I'd ever felt with Derek, felt seen in a way I'd never experienced. Felt like maybe, just maybe, I was worth the effort he was putting into keeping me safe. It was a dangerous thought. The kind of thought that led good girls into bad situations. But as I finally climbed into bed, surrounded by luxury I didn't deserve and protection I hadn't asked for, I couldn't quite bring myself to regret accepting Lucas's help. Even if it meant owing him something I wasn't sure I could repay. Morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through curtains I'd forgotten to close and the smell of coffee drifting up from somewhere downstairs. For one disoriented moment, I thought I was back in the apartment I'd shared with Derek, that the past 3 days had been nothing but a nightmare brought on by stress. Then I registered the silk sheets, the ceiling that was definitely not mine, and the blessed absence of Derek's weight beside me, and reality crashed back. I was in Lucas Moretti's family estate. Derek was out there somewhere, probably planning his next move. And I was hiding like a coward instead of facing my problems head-on. The thought got me out of bed and into the shower, a marble and glass confection that could have fit my entire old bathroom. I dressed in clothes from the bags Lorraine had packed, simple jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly salary used to be. Downstairs, I followed the coffee smell to a kitchen that belonged in a design magazine. Stainless steel appliances, marble countertops, and Lucas standing at the stove in gray slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, cooking what looked like eggs and bacon. He turned when I entered, a slight smile crossing his face. "You're up. I was going to bring breakfast to your room." "I'm capable of walking downstairs." It came out sharper than intended, defensive. Lucas's smile didn't fade. "I'm aware. Coffee?" He poured me a cup without waiting for an answer, adding cream the way I'd had it yesterday. The fact that he'd noticed made something in my chest tighten uncomfortably. "Where's Lorraine?" I asked, accepting the mug. "She went back to the city. Had a charity board meeting she couldn't miss." He slid perfectly cooked eggs onto 2 plates. "But Sophia's here. She's doing a security sweep of the grounds." "Expecting trouble?" "Always." He set a plate in front of me, then took the seat across. "But specifically, yes. Derek's patterns suggest he'll try something within the next 48 hours. He's not patient enough for a long game." The eggs tasted like heaven, but discussing Derek's violent tendencies made them sit heavy in my stomach. "What kind of something?" "Could be anything. Showing up here with police, claiming I'm holding you hostage, hiring private investigators to dig up dirt on me, reaching out to my enemies to form alliances." Lucas ate with careful precision, each movement controlled. Or he could just try to grab you himself if he finds an opening. "He won't find one," I said, with more confidence than I felt. "No, he won't." Lucas's eyes met mine across the table. "Because you're not leaving this estate until he's neutralized. And before you argue about being caged again, it's not a suggestion. It's reality. Derek is dangerous, Lily. And you're the one thing standing between him and total professional destruction." "I'm not a thing." Poor word choice. He had the grace to look slightly chagrined. "You're the one person. The witness who can corroborate the evidence against him. The victim who makes his abuse real instead of theoretical. That makes you invaluable to the case, and a target for him." I pushed eggs around my plate, appetite gone. "So I hide here while you handle everything. Again." "Would you prefer to handle Derek yourself?" Lucas asked, his tone neutral. "Because if you want to confront him directly, I can arrange that. With security present, of course. But it's an option." The offer caught me off guard. I'd expected more of the same protective containment. Not choices. "You'd let me do that?" "I'd prefer you didn't, for safety reasons." "But yes." Lucas set down his fork. "Lily, I'm not Derek. I'm not going to make decisions for you and then force you to live with them. If you want agency in this situation, tell me what you want, and we'll figure out how to make it happen safely." What did I want? The question was harder than it should have been. I'd spent so long having my wants ignored or punished that I'd stopped recognizing them as valid. "I want to not be afraid anymore," I said finally. "I want to wake up without wondering if today's the day Derek finds me. I want to build a life that's mine, not defined by running from him or hiding from him or waiting for him to lose interest." I met Lucas's dark eyes. "But I don't know how to get from here to there." "We start by getting you divorced, legally severed from him in every way that matters." Lucas pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. "Marcus Romeo can file the papers today. We have more than enough grounds. Abuse, abandonment, fraud. Derek can fight it, but it'll only make him look worse. He'll drag it out as long as possible just to torture me. Probably. But in the meantime, you're legally separated, which means any financial claims he makes on you become significantly harder to enforce." Lucas looked up. "We'll also get you access to your own accounts again. New ones, in your name only, seated with enough money to give you independence. I can't accept your money, Lucas. It's not charity." His voice was firm. "Consider it payment for the intelligence you've provided about Derek's money laundering operation. Information has value, Lily. You've given me leverage I can use against both Derek and the Marchettis. That's worth compensating." The logic made sense, but it still felt like accepting handouts. How much compensation are we talking about? Enough that you never have to be financially dependent on anyone again. Enough to pay for your own apartment once Derek's handled, your own car, your own life. Lucas paused. Unless you want to stay here. In which case, that's also an option. The casual way he offered it, like having me live in his family estate was no big deal, sent warning bells ringing in my head. Why would you want that? Lucas was quiet for a moment, his expression unreadable. Because this place is too big for one person. Because Lorraine visits more when someone else is here. Because... He stopped, seemingly weighing his next words carefully. Because I like having you here, Lily. I like cooking breakfast for someone. I like hearing your footsteps upstairs. I like... He cut himself off, shaking his head. Never mind. Forget I said anything. But I couldn't forget. Because the raw honesty in his voice had revealed something I'd been trying not to see. Lucas Moretti was lonely. For all his power and connections, he lived in spaces too large for one person, and ate meals meant for two alone. I like being here, I admitted quietly. Which probably makes me certifiably insane, considering you're basically a stranger who happens to be a mob boss. Technically, I prefer the term entrepreneur with flexible ethics. His lips quirked. But yes, on paper this is insane. You should be running from me, not sharing breakfast. Should I? Lucas held my gaze. Honestly? I don't know, Lily. I'd like to think I'm one of the good ones, relatively speaking. But I've done things that would horrify you. Hurt people, made problems disappear, operated outside the law more times than I can count. I'm not a safe choice by any objective measure. Neither was Derek, and he was supposed to be respectable. Fair point. Lucas stood, collecting our plates. But there's a difference between dangerous and abusive. I'm the former. Derek's the latter. Don't confuse the two just because you're grateful for my protection. The warning was clear. Don't develop feelings for me based on proximity and gratitude. Don't mistake safety for attraction. It was reasonable, logical advice. Too bad my heart wasn't listening. I spent the rest of the morning exploring the estate with Sophia as my shadow. The property was massive. Acres of manicured grounds, a pool house, tennis courts, even a small guest house that Sophia informed me was sometimes used by Lucas's business associates when they were conducting sensitive negotiations. I didn't ask what that meant. You're good for him, you know, Sophia said as we walked past elaborate gardens. Lucas? I barely know him. Exactly. She adjusted her sunglasses. He needs someone who sees him as just Lucas, not Lucas Moretti, head of the family, heir to his grandfather's empire. Someone who challenges him instead of just agreeing with everything he says. I'm not trying to be good for him. I'm just trying to survive. Sometimes those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Sophia stopped, turning to face me. Look, I'm not saying you owe Lucas anything beyond gratitude, but I've worked for him for 3 years, and I've never seen him go to these lengths for anyone who wasn't family. The fact that he's protecting you, housing you, putting his own neck on the line against Derek, that means something. It means he sees me as a project, I said, repeating what I'd told myself 100 times. A way to make up for not saving his sister. Maybe that's how it started. Sophia shrugged. But I've seen how he looks at you when you're not watching, Lily. That's not guilt or obligation. That's interest. Real interest. Before I could respond, her phone buzzed. She checked it, her expression darkening. We need to get back to the house. Now. We practically ran back, Sophia's hand on her weapon the entire way. Lucas met us at the door, his face grim. What's wrong? I demanded. Derek knows you're here. Lucas pulled up something on his phone. A news article. He gave an interview to the Tribune. Claims I'm a mobster holding his vulnerable, mentally ill wife hostage. Says he's calling for a federal investigation into my criminal activities. I read the article with growing horror. Derek had positioned himself as the concerned husband fighting against organized crime to rescue his beloved wife. He'd included our wedding photo, one where I looked young and happy, and nothing like the broken woman who'd fled him 3 days ago. "This is bad," I whispered. "This is desperate," Lucas corrected. "Derek's playing his last card. Public sympathy. He's trying to force my hand, make me give you up before the investigation gains traction." "Will it work?" "The investigation? No. I have enough legitimate businesses and lawyers to keep federal agents busy for years without finding anything actionable." Lucas set down his phone. "But the publicity is problematic. It puts pressure on both of us, makes it harder to operate quietly. So what do we do?" Lucas's smile was sharp as broken glass. "We go public ourselves, show the world who Derek Ashford really is." 2 hours later, I stood in front of cameras in Lucas's study, Marcus Romeo beside me, reading a prepared statement that laid out Derek's abuse in clinical, devastating detail. I showed the photos Dr. Chen had taken. I described the financial control, the isolation, the escalating violence. I spoke calmly, clearly, like the intelligent woman I'd been before Derek had spent 2 years convincing me I was worthless. And I watched, through the window, as Derek's carefully constructed narrative crumbled in real time on social media. By evening, I believe Lily was trending. Support flooded in from abuse survivors, women's organizations, even colleagues of Derek's who'd witnessed his controlling behavior. The Tribune issued an update to their article, including my statement and Dr. A. Chen's medical evidence. Derek's last card had backfired spectacularly. "He'll be even more dangerous now," Lucas warned as we watched the fallout unfold. "Backed into a corner, reputation destroyed. Men like Derek don't handle public humiliation well." "Good." I surprised myself with the viciousness in my voice. Let him feel what it's like to be powerless for once. Lucas looked at me, something approving in his expression. There's the steel I was talking about. That night, I couldn't sleep. Too wired from the press conference. Too aware that Derek was out there somewhere, watching everything fall apart. I wandered downstairs around midnight and found Lucas in his study, staring at computer screens that showed various security feeds. "Can't sleep either?" I asked from the doorway. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face before it smoothed into something more neutral. "Too much caffeine. You?" "Too much adrenaline." I moved into the room, studying the screens. "Is that Derek's house?" "Among others. I'm monitoring his movements, trying to predict what he'll do next." Lucas gestured to a chair. "Want to help? You know him better than anyone." For the next hour, we analyzed Derek's patterns together. Where he went, who he talked to, what resources he still had access to. Lucas asked insightful questions that forced me to really think about my ex-husband's psychology, his breaking points, his triggers. "He'll go after Lorraine," I said finally. "He knows she helped me. He'll see her as the weak point, someone he can threaten to get to me. Lorraine can handle herself." But Lucas made a note. "I'll increase her security detail anyway. And he'll come here eventually. Not with police. He can't. Not after that press conference. But he'll try something. Maybe hire people. Maybe just show up himself. But he won't let this go." "I'm counting on it." Lucas leaned back in his chair. "Because when he makes his move, we'll be ready. And this time, Derek Ashford won't walk away." The promise in his voice should have comforted me. Instead, it made me aware of just how dangerous Lucas was when protecting who he considered his. "I'm scared," I admitted. Not of Derek finding me. Of what happens after. Of trying to build a life when the past 3 days have been the most insane of my existence. Life doesn't have to be insane. Lucas stood, moving to the window. Once Derek's handled, you can have whatever kind of life you want. Quiet, boring, normal. I'll make sure of it. What if I don't want boring? The question emerged before I could stop it. Lucas turned, his dark eyes finding mine in the dim light. What do you want, Lily? I want to stop running. I want to feel safe. I want to figure out who I am without Derek's voice in my head telling me I'm worthless. I stopped, unsure how to finish, because what I wanted was standing 10 feet away, looking at me like I was the most interesting puzzle he'd ever encountered. You want? Lucas prompted, moving closer. I want to stop being afraid of wanting things. My voice came out barely above a whisper. Derek punished me every time I expressed a desire, an opinion, a thought that wasn't his. Now I second-guess everything, wondering if it's safe to want anything at all. Lucas stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. It's safe here. With me. Whatever you want, however crazy or impractical or impossible, it's safe to want it. Even if what I want is dangerous. Especially then. His hand came up, hovering near my face without touching. Because sometimes the most dangerous things are exactly what we need. I should have stepped back, should have remembered that this man was my protector, not whatever I was thinking he could be. Should have maintained appropriate boundaries. Instead, I closed the distance between us, rising on my toes to press my lips to his. For a heartbeat, Lucas went perfectly still. Then his arms came around me, pulling me closer as he kissed me back with an intensity that stole my breath. This wasn't gentle or tentative. This was hunger, desire, weeks of tension finally breaking. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucas rested his forehead against mine. That was dangerous, he murmured. I know. We should stop. We should. Neither of us moved. Lily. My name on his lips was half warning, half prayer. If we do this, there's no going back. No pretending it didn't happen. No maintaining professional distance. Good. I fisted my hands in his shirt. I'm done pretending. Done maintaining distance. Done being afraid to want things. Even if the thing you want is me. And especially then. Lucas kissed me again, deeper this time, and I felt something inside me break free. Some cage I hadn't realized I was still locked in. This wasn't Derek's possession disguised as love. This was two broken people finding something real in the wreckage. When Lucas finally pulled back, his eyes were dark with desire, but also something else. Concern, maybe, or regret. You just got out of an abusive marriage, Lily. Your emotions are all over the place. You might be confusing gratitude with, Don't. I cut him off. Don't tell me what I'm feeling. Derek did that for 2 years, and I'm done letting men define my emotions for me. I'm trying to protect you, even from myself. Then you're going to fail. I stepped back, suddenly needing space to think. Because I know what I want, Lucas. And it's not protection or safety or someone to save me. It's you, the real you, dangerous ethics and all. You don't know what you're saying. Stop treating me like I'm broken. Anger flared, hot and cleansing. Yes, Derek hurt me. Yes, I'm still healing, but I'm not some fragile thing that needs to be handled with kid gloves. I'm steel, remember? Steel you said I was? Well, steel doesn't bend, and I'm telling you, clearly and consciously, that I want this. Want you. Lucas stared at me for a long moment, something fierce and possessive warring with concern in his expression. This is a terrible idea. Probably. You'll regret it in the morning. I doubt it. Lily, stop arguing with me and kiss me again. This time when our lips met, there was no hesitation. Lucas lifted me, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me from the study toward his bedroom. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was choosing it. Choosing him. Choosing myself. And that made all the difference. I woke wrapped in expensive sheets in Lucas's arms, sunlight painting golden stripes across skin that bore new marks. The good kind, for once. Evidence of passion instead of violence, of choice instead of coercion. Lucas was already awake, his dark eyes studying my face with an intensity that should have made me uncomfortable but somehow didn't. "Morning?" I murmured, my voice rough from sleep. "Morning." His thumb traced my jawline with devastating gentleness. "Regrets?" "None." I surprised myself with how true it was. "You?" "Only that I waited this long." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "But we need to talk about what this means. Can't we just exist in it for a while before dissecting it?" "No." His voice was gentle but firm. "Because Derek is still out there, and my protecting you just became exponentially more complicated now that you're..." He paused. "Now that we're whatever this is." "Sleeping together?" I supplied. "Involved," he corrected. "Sleeping together sounds temporary. This feels like something more." My heart did a complicated flip at the implication. "You think?" "I know." Lucas sat up, the sheet pooling at his waist in a way that was dangerously distracting. "Lily, I don't do casual, never have. So if this was just scratching an itch for you, tell me now before you what?" "Before I fall the rest of the way in love with you." The admission came out raw, honest, terrifying in its vulnerability. "Because I'm already halfway there. And if you don't feel the same, I need to know before I make an idiot of myself." The words hung between us, weighted with implications I hadn't let myself consider. Love. Lucas Moretti thought he was falling in love with me. "That's insane," I whispered. "We've known each other for 3 days. 4, technically, and yes, it's insane. But when has anything about this been sane?" His hand found mine. "I'm not asking you to say it back. I'm just asking you to be honest about what you want from this. Because if it's just protection and safety and someone to help you get free of Derek, I can give you that without the complication of feelings. But if it's more, it's more." The words escaped before I could second guess them. "I don't know if it's love yet, but it's more than gratitude, more than safety. It's..." I struggled to find words. "It's the first time I've felt like myself in years. Like I can breathe without permission. Like I matter beyond what I can provide someone else." Lucas's expression softened. "You do matter. You matter so damn much, Lily." Before I could respond, pounding on the bedroom door shattered the moment. Sophia's voice urgent. "Boss, we have a situation." Lucas was out of bed instantly, pulling on pants and tossing me his shirt. "What kind of situation?" "Derek's here, at the gate with a dozen reporters and 2 police cars. He's demanding to speak with Lily, claiming he has a court order requiring her to return home." Ice flooded my veins. He found us. Couldn't have been hard. Lucas was already moving, grabbing his phone. "Your press conference yesterday made the national news. Anyone with basic investigative skills could have traced you here." He looked at Sophia. "Is the court order legitimate?" "Haven't verified yet, but it looks official enough to fool the cops. Emergency protective custody, signed by Judge Morrison. Derek's golf buddy." I stood, Lucas's shirt hanging to mid-thigh. "He probably called in a favor." "Doesn't matter if it's legitimate or not. We need to handle this before it becomes a siege." Lucas's phone was already at his ear, rapid-fire Italian pouring out too fast for me to follow. "What do I do?" I asked Sophia. "Get dressed." Look calm, composed, not like a hostage. We're going to go down there, and you're going to tell Derek, in front of all those reporters, exactly why you're here and why you're never going back to him." 20 minutes later, I stood at the estate's front gate in the same black dress I'd worn to the lawyer's office, Lucas at my side like a well-dressed sentinel. Derek was on the other side of the iron bars, flanked by uniformed officers and surrounded by cameras. He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes wild, suit rumpled. This wasn't the polished prosecutor I'd married. This was a man unraveling. "Lily," his voice cracked. "Thank God. Tell these people that you want to come home. Tell them you're being held against your will." "I'm not being held against my will, Derek." My voice came out steady, clear. "I'm here because I choose to be. Because Lucas Moretti offered me safety when you offered me violence. You're confused. You're sick. You need help, and I can get it for you." Derek turned to the police officers. "She's clearly not in her right mind. The court order gives me authority to—" "The court order is invalid," Marcus Romeo announced, appearing beside Lucas with a stack of papers. "Because as of an hour ago, Miss Parker filed for divorce and obtained her own restraining order against you, Mr. Ashford, which means you're currently violating said order by being within 100 feet of her." Derek's face went purple. "You can't—" "I can, and I did." I stepped closer to the gate, close enough to see the fury in Derek's eyes. "I'm not your property, Derek. I'm not your wife. And I'm not coming back. Not now, not ever. Lily, please." His voice shifted, became the wheedling tone I knew too well. "I love you. I'm sorry for everything. Just come home and we'll work this out. You don't love me. You love owning me. There's a difference." I turned to the reporters, addressing them directly. Derek Ashford systematically abused me for 2 years. He hit me, controlled my money, isolated me from friends and family, and made me believe I deserved it. When I finally found the courage to leave, he filed false reports and manipulated the legal system to try to force me back. That's not love. That's obsession and control. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions, and Derek lunged at the gate, trying to reach through the bars. "You bitch! You ungrateful—" Lucas's security detail moved instantly, creating a barrier between Derek and me. The police officers finally seemed to wake up, restraining Derek before he could do more than rattle the iron. "Mr. Ashford," one officer said, "I think you need to come with us." "She's lying," Derek screamed, struggling against their hold. "She's manipulating all of you. She's always been unstable, dramatic, making up stories for attention." "The medical evidence says otherwise," Marcus interjected calmly, handing papers to the officers. "As does Dr. Chen's forensic report, the witness statements, and the audio recordings Ms. Parker made of Mr. Ashford's threats." Derek went still. "What recordings?" "The ones I made every time you hit me." I pulled out my old phone, the one Derek thought was broken, the one I'd secretly been using to document his abuse. 2 years worth, Derek. Every threat, every slap, every time you told me you'd kill me if I left. All recorded, all time-stamped, all admissible in court. The color drained from Derek's face as he realized the full extent of his exposure. "You can't use those. You recorded me without consent. That's illegal in Illinois." "Actually," Marcus smiled, "the domestic violence exception allows for one-party consent in cases of suspected abuse. Every recording Ms. Parker made is perfectly legal and perfectly damning." I watched Derek's world collapse in real time. The reporters were already typing furiously on phones. The police officers were reading him his Miranda rights. His carefully constructed facade had crumbled to dust. "This isn't over," Derek hissed as they led him away. "You think Moretti will protect you forever? You think he actually cares about you? He's using you just like I did. Only difference is he's better at making you believe it's real." The words were designed to hurt, to plant doubt. And maybe they would have. If I hadn't seen the fury in Lucas's eyes, the way his whole body had gone taut with the effort of not vaulting the gate to get to Derek himself. The difference, I called after Derek, is that Lucas has never raised a hand to me, has never made me feel small or worthless or afraid. So even if he is using me, which I doubt, it's still better than what you gave me. As the police cars pulled away, reporters still shouting questions, I felt something settle in my chest. Not quite peace, too soon for that, but something close. The knowledge that I'd faced Derek and won, that I'd spoken my truth in front of cameras and cops and the court of public opinion, and I'd been believed. That was incredible, Lucas murmured as security ushered us back toward the house. You were incredible. I was terrified. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. He pulled me close once we were inside, away from cameras and prying eyes. Are you okay? To ask me again in a few hours after the adrenaline wears off. I leaned into him, needing his solid presence. But yeah, I think I am. Over the next week, Derek's world continued its spectacular collapse. The audio recordings went viral, used in news segments about domestic violence and coercive control. The Illinois State Bar opened an investigation into his conduct. The Marchettis, faced with their money launderer becoming a national embarrassment, cut all ties, which led to Derek losing his plea deal leverage and facing actual consequences for the first time in his life. Lucas handled it all with quiet efficiency, ensuring I was protected from the worst of the media frenzy, while still allowing me agency in how my story was told. He never made decisions without consulting me, never assumed he knew what was best, never tried to control the narrative beyond keeping me physically safe. It was such a stark contrast to Derek that I sometimes had to remind myself this was real, not some elaborate manipulation. Stop overthinking, Lucas said one evening, catching me staring into space over dinner. I can literally hear your brain spiraling from here. How do you know I'm overthinking and not just thinking? Because you get this tiny crease right here. He tapped between my eyebrows. When you're worrying about something. So talk to me. What's going on in that beautiful head? I set down my fork. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. For you to show your true colors. Demand something in exchange for your protection. Reveal that this whole thing was about control after all. Lucas was quiet for a moment. I understand why you'd think that. Derek conditioned you to expect ulterior motives from everyone, especially men who offer help. It's not just conditioning, it's pattern recognition. People don't do what you've done without expecting something in return. Most people know. He stood, moving to the window. But I told you why I'm doing this. For my sister's memory. For the woman I couldn't save. That's not manipulation. It's atonement. And the other stuff? I forced myself to ask. Sleeping together, saying you're falling in love, is that atonement too? Lucas turned, his expression unreadable. No, that's just me being a fool who fell for the woman he was trying to protect. Classic mistake, getting emotionally involved with someone vulnerable. But there it is. I'm not vulnerable. You're recovering from abuse, hiding from a violent ex, and financially dependent on me for survival. That's pretty much the definition of vulnerable, Lily. So you're taking advantage? No. His voice went hard. I'm trying damn hard not to. Why do you think I keep second-guessing this? Keep asking if you're sure. Keep giving you space to change your mind. Because I know the power dynamic here is fucked up. I know that me having feelings for you while you're under my protection is inappropriate at best. Predatory at worst. But you have them anyway. Can't help it. He moved back toward me. You're smart, fierce, stronger than you know. You challenge me, call me on my bullshit, refuse to be diminished even when you're scared. How am I supposed to not fall for that? I stood, closing the distance between us. What if I'm falling too? Then we're both idiots. But his hands came up to frame my face, gentle and possessive all at once. Lily, I need you to hear this. If you want to leave, now, next week, next month, I will help you. I'll set you up somewhere Derek can't find you, with enough money to start over completely independently. You don't owe me anything for the protection I've given you, and you sure as hell don't owe me a relationship. What if I want one anyway? Then we take it slow. We wait until Derek's fully handled, until you have your own space and resources, until the power dynamic is more balanced. We do this right. Or, I countered, we acknowledge that life is messy, timing is never perfect, and sometimes you just have to trust your instincts. Your instincts told you Derek was safe once. The words hit like a slap, even though they weren't meant cruelly. Because he was right. I'd trusted my instincts before, and they'd led me into 2 years of hell. True, I admitted. But my instincts also told me to run 3 nights ago. To trust Lorraine when she said she could help. To stay when you offered protection, even though everything logical said I should bolt. I held his gaze. My instincts aren't perfect, Lucas, but they're mine. And right now they're telling me you're nothing like Derek. I'm exactly like Derek in some ways. I'm controlling, possessive, used to getting what I want. The only difference is I channel it into protection instead of abuse. No. The difference is you care about my consent, about my agency, about who I am as a person instead of what I can be to you. I took his hands. Derek never asked me what I wanted, never cared about my answer. You ask constantly. That's not the same, Lucas. He pulled me close, resting his chin on top of my head. What do you want, Lily? Right now, in this moment. What do you actually want? I thought about it. Really thought, beyond fear and conditioning and second-guessing. What did I want? I want to stay here while we finish dealing with Derek. I want to keep sleeping in your bed and waking up safe. I want to figure out who I am without him. And I want you there while I do it. I pulled back to look at him. And then, when Derek's gone, and I have my own money and space, I want to see if this thing between us is real or just trauma bonding. That's a good plan. Reasonable. Measured. And after we confirm it's real, I want to stay anyway. Here. With you. Because I like cooking breakfast together, and your terrible taste in movies and the way you look at me like I'm something precious instead of damaged. Lucas kissed me then, soft and deep and full of promise. When we broke apart, he was smiling, not his usual controlled expression, but something genuine and a little odd. You're going to ruin me, Lily Parker. Good. You could use a little ruining. 3 months later, Derek pleaded guilty to assault, stalking, and wire fraud in exchange for a reduced sentence. He was disbarred, fined extensively, and sentenced to 5 years in a minimum security facility. Not nearly enough for what he'd done, but enough to keep him away from me. The divorce was finalized the same week. I was legally free. Lucas threw a small celebration, just Lorraine, Sophia, Marcus, and a few others who'd helped along the way. We ate too much Italian food, and drank expensive wine, and toasted to new beginnings. So, Lorraine cornered me in the kitchen while I was loading the dishwasher. Are you staying? In Chicago? Yeah, I like it here. I meant with Lucas, in this house, in his bed. Oh. Heat rose in my cheeks. Yeah, I think so. If he'll have me. Have you? Lorraine laughed. Lily, my cousin is absolutely besotted. He looks at you like you hung the moon. Of course he'll have you. As if summoned, Lucas appeared in the doorway. Everything okay? Lorraine's giving me the shovel talk, I informed him. No, I'm telling her not to break your heart because you're disgustingly in love with her, and I'd have to stage an intervention. Lorraine patted my shoulder. I'll leave you two too, whatever. After she left, Lucas moved behind me, arms encircling my waist. Are you happy? Deliriously. I leaned back against him, also terrified. Of what? That I'll wake up and this will all be a dream. That Derek will find some loophole and come back. That you'll realize I'm more trouble than I'm worth. Not possible. He turned me to face him. You're worth everything, Lily. Every headache, every complication, every risk I took protecting you. Worth all of it and more. Even if I'm still working through trauma? Even if I have nightmares and trust issues and days where I can barely function? Especially then. His hands framed my face. Healing isn't linear. Some days you'll be fine. Some days you won't. That's okay. I'm not going anywhere. I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it. Gratitude and affection, and the beginning of what might be love. Given time to grow without fear. When we broke apart, I whispered against his lips. I'm falling in love with you, Lucas Moretti. Probably have been since you threatened Derek with his own fingers. Lucas laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. That's a weird moment to pinpoint, but I'll take it. When did you know? With me? The second morning you were here. You came downstairs in my shirt and argued with me about making your own breakfast. You were fierce and stubborn and absolutely refused to be diminished, even though you were scared and hurting and had every reason to be small. He kissed my forehead. I thought, this woman is going to destroy me. And I was right. Sorry, not sorry. Never apologize for being exactly who you are. His dark eyes held mine, intense and honest. You're steel wrapped in silk, Lily Parker. Never forget that. I wouldn't. Not anymore. Because I'd learned something important through all of this. I was strong enough to survive Derek. Strong enough to accept help without losing myself. Strong enough to risk loving again despite knowing it could hurt. I was strong enough to choose happiness on my own terms. And my terms included Lucas Moretti. Dangerous ethics and all. 6 months after that, I was still in Lucas's house. Still in his bed. Still building a life that was wholly mine, even while shared with him. I'd started working part-time at an art gallery, using my degree for the first time in years. Lucas had helped me reconnect with old friends Derek had alienated. I was seeing a therapist weekly, working through trauma at my own pace. Some days were hard. Some days I still flinched at raised voices, or panicked when Lucas stood too close too quickly. But he was patient, giving me space when I needed it, and support when I didn't. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, I healed. Marry me, Lucas said one random Tuesday morning over coffee. I nearly choked on my espresso. What? Marry me. Not now. I know it's too soon. But eventually, when you're ready, when the idea doesn't scare you. He set down his cup, taking my hands. I love you, Lily. I want to build a life with you officially, not just practically. I want you to have my name, my protection, my everything, by choice, not necessity. My heart hammered against my ribs. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately, but the wiser part, the healed part, needed to be honest. Ask me again in a year, when I know I'm saying yes because I want to, not because I'm grateful or scared or still figuring out who I am without Derek. Lucas smiled, not disappointed, but approving. 1 year. I can wait. And Lucas, when I say yes, and I will say yes, it won't be because I need you. It'll be because I choose you. There's a difference. I know. He kissed me softly. That's why I'm willing to wait. 1 year later, on a random Tuesday morning over coffee, Lucas asked again. This time, I said yes. Not because I needed saving. Not because I was grateful or dependent or afraid to be alone. But because I loved him. Because he'd proven every day that protection and possession weren't the same thing. because he saw me, really saw me, and valued what he found. Because I chose him, freely and completely, and that made all the difference.